Hey everyone, it's Andre Luck here with my video for this week where I'm going to talk about the 5 different problems, solutions, and benefits that we've covered over the past few weeks, but then tying that all together and putting that into action to actually make a transformation. Because we've talked a lot about the challenges that sports teams face as relates to elevating their B2B sales skills and results. And there's challenges internally you face once you get everyone aligned to move forward, but to see this across the finish line and get the end result that you're looking for. So, to recap, the first problem was around having business conversations as a sales team. Many sellers are B2C, they don't know how to have good B2B sales conversations. So, we solved that by coming in and doing initial training. The next step would be taking that and putting that into a documented process because a lot of people just kind of do it their own way or have their own style, by having a playbook that you build from the best practices from your top salespeople, your leaders, documenting that so that they have that ready to go when they're out doing campaigns. And when you're onboarding new hires, it's a quick speed up process to get them up to speed on how to attack certain B2B targets and accounts that they're going to go after. The third problem is now being able to leverage all that to free your people up or free your sales leaders up, but then make informed decisions from it. So you have to build in structured processes into how you run your CRM system, the reporting that you see. So people aren't wasting time looking up and forecasting and projecting, but that's all there with one click or delivered to them. They can see the reports that are coming. So we come in, build the reports, set up the processes that everyone's aligned upon that meet to larger business objectives. Then from there, because there's so many manual tasks that happen, we look to implement technology to speed that up. And then the last part is just reinforcing that training. So working with your sales team and your leaders on a quarterly basis and having periodic check-ins to make sure that initial training that we implemented is now being reinforced and people are following through with that. So then once you get on the other side, let's say that you align with us or whoever to come in as an implementation partner to make this transformation because you can't do it internally. There's problems that you're going to face as it relates to just change management and then the internal dynamics of an organization. So the first one is what I talked about, just the people. People like to be comfortable. There's certain processes that we got used to, a certain way that they've been doing it. And a lot of people that are looking to really make this transformation are probably seeing success. So they're like, well, what we're doing is already kind of working. Why don't we keep doing that? But if you want to take it to the next level, you have to make changes. You can't hold on to what was if you're looking to move forward to something new. So a lot of people get stuck in that and they're afraid of change and they're comfortable, but also very like short-term focused thinking. If you're looking to make a transformation, it's not something you're hoping to happen overnight. You're looking out and seeing this landscape changing, or there's a revenue opportunity for you over the next couple of years. So you can't be looking at the short term, you have to be looking at the long term. So the way to solve that is to align everyone on the why of why you're doing this. Whether it's you see in the market there's a difference in how buyer behaviors are changing. And the biggest thing I've been preaching is that a lot of consumers are self-serving. They're buying themselves online. So you need to pivot your strategy from an incremental proactive standpoint to B2B and focusing on outbound opportunities that aren't going to come to you. So you need to align on the why of why you're doing this so everyone understands, although there may be some discomfort and some challenges on the front end, there's a bigger purpose that we're looking to overcome. I was talking to a team recently that said their percentage of revenue towards the number of tickets they're selling, it's skewed too much to a lower average ticket price. So for them to be sustainable, they need to start selling higher price opportunities, higher price inventory, building out premium spaces so that they can increase their amount of revenue because there aren't too many new tickets that they could sell. So they have to go up in price, but they have to deliver a product and solution that solves it. So they'd be a great fit to switch their focus to B2B because they need to realize more revenue out of all the seats that they're selling. And it's probably going to come from the business segment. You're going to price out your consumers and your fans in some areas. You want to have inventory and opportunities for them to still come because they're a big part of telling your story and keeping your brand out there and engaged and growing your attendance and new fans. But if you're looking to increase your revenue, it's going to come from a smaller segment of customers, but those that have the propensity to spend more through businesses and just high net worth individuals. So it's where we come up with a lot of teams that are looking to build out new premium spaces or new hospitality spaces or increase their average ticket price because the businesses probably have the better opportunity to do that. Another problem that you face is there aren't experts internally that are used to doing implementations. And I even, raise my hand myself and say that's not my area of expertise. So what I've done, I've partnered with the person that I brought in to work with my team before. His name's Jake Dunlap, and he runs a consulting company, Scale Consulting. They've worked with thousands of companies to do a transformation for them and change their processes. So they have best practices. They have SOPs for how to get these things done. They have experts on certain parts of your sales operations and revenue operations function that can help you with different parts of it, whether it's the initial training that we've talked about, it's the forecasting and building that out, it's helping implement certain technologies. So where a lot of people go wrong is they try and do everything in-house, but all the internal people know is what their systems and processes have been internally. Maybe they've been at a few other organizations, but when you have an implementation expert or an agency that does this and sees it in all different areas, all different sizes of companies, and all the challenges that they face, and this is their level of expertise and area of expertise, that's where you can make sure things get done. So partnering with them and bring a new model to sports sales where obviously I have the background of being in sports and knowing what that looks like, but they've worked with big brands like Microsoft, LinkedIn, even some bigger sports properties. So us working together post just the initial sales training to now implement this change that's really going to sustain success over the long term. I think it's going to be a great partnership. We're going to bring a lot of great opportunities to the sports industry, specifically as it relates to B2B and B2B sports sales. The other challenge you see is the cross-departmental alignment. So a little bit goes to the first thing I talked about, just the people internally. And there's the old adage of sales and marketing alignment or lack thereof. But it's not just sales and marketing. It's obviously your customer success team, your revenue operations, or your business strategy, your finance. They all have internal focuses and internal goals that they're looking to achieve. So, for example, with the sports team, your marketing team is probably focused predominantly on building the fan base and more single game transactions. And so to get them to focus on B2B, that's going to be a big shift. And that's actually where I came into this initially when we started the company and focusing on B2B within sports. I thought the biggest opportunity would be on the marketing side because I've been ahead of sales. And I know that not from lack of wanting to necessarily, it's just the lack of expertise in marketing to know how to target B2B. The sales leaders a lot of times are the marketers. They are the ones building out the lead list. They're figuring out the campaigns. They're running kind of these trials and test pilots internally, but you're also trying to run a sales team. So, for the marketing team to take what they're already focusing on and putting their resources towards this new activity, this new function, maybe they're bought into it, but they have their own goals and challenges that they're trying to hit and achieve and see success on their end. So a lot of times you'll see the marketing team, high-fiving because they've hit their goal, but the sales team didn't hit their numbers, and that should never be the case. It's not that sales is better than marketing, but marketing's key job is to help the organization drive revenue and reach their goals in all areas of the business. So really you need to get buy-in from the top. You need to have that executive leader, probably the president or CEO, maybe it's a CRO if they have influence internally, to really champion this and make sure that the resources are being allocated and everyone's aligned that this is a top priority. If it just comes from the director or VP of sales, they may be able to make some small changes, but to get other departments to buy in without that coming from the top, that's going to be a challenge because they're not going to follow through with that and understand that it's a top priority for the organization. So you need to make sure that it comes from the executive level and it comes from the top. There's a consulting company that I follow on LinkedIn, and they just did a recent study of their last 10 opportunities that they've done. They're looking to come in and make big, significant investments into changing their processes to drive more revenue for tech companies. And they said out of the last 10, if they worked with the CEO, they typically got the deal closed. If it was like even a CMO or a CRO, if the CEO wasn't involved or the president wasn't involved, the deal didn't go through. because you need that buy-in and that commitment from the top. There's only so much you could do as a department level leader to get other parts of your organization to buy in if it's not a top priority from the top. So for us, we still work with department level leaders, get a good lay of the land. If there's opportunities we could fix in the short term, that's great. But to make this transformation, we have to elevate that conversation a level higher, and maybe even 2 levels higher, to the CRO, the CEO, who can really bring all the stakeholders together, tie and align all this to 2 to 3 key business level metrics. That's a good way too to make sure that everyone's metrics are aligned to this bigger goal. So if it's a top priority, they need to go out and market and increase our sales to businesses. You need to get buy-in from the top and have metrics that align to that too. So now, instead of your marketing team focusing on single game ticket sales or growing the number of followers and impressions that they have on social, their focus now becomes on increasing pipeline, for example, of new accounts that you're targeting, or aligning on a few accounts you can target, and how many of those have we moved in pipeline and converted to sales and revenue. Very few, if any, marketing and analytics teams are talking about it to that level of detail as it relates to B2B. That's where we come in and make sure that everyone understands the priority there, but also has tactics and objectives that align to those longer term metrics and higher level business goals to make sure you're seeing the returns that you want to see from it. So to not just jump all in and to slowly take bits and pieces away at that, you could run a trial. You could do maybe like a 90-day, 3-month trial. That's actually something I'm talking about with one sports team right now that has themselves covered on the sales side and the sales training side, but also looking at potentially doing some things on the marketing side. So what we're talking about right now is aligning those support functions within the organization, their marketing team, their analytics team, or their business intelligence team, to get on board, and we all come together and figure out what's the best way to attack the business market. They eventually want to sell more suite leases. They want to sell more premium inventory. And what they're doing is, working to some extent, but they know that they have to take it up a notch and continue to innovate and try new things. So for the next 90 days, we're going to focus specifically on, or whenever we launch, for those first 90 days, on finding the right accounts based on the current clients that they already work with. So we're going to target those accounts and come up with campaigns and tactics and initiatives. And then at the end of it, to measure, we're going to see how many of those accounts we're able to move in market through sales efforts, align with marketing and their business intelligence team to increase their pipeline and eventually revenue converted out of the business segment that they didn't have before. Another problem that you see kind of goes with the last one I talked about is the resources or the funding being put towards that. Sports teams can be cheap, really tight on their margins, and really want to make sure that they're getting a profit out of it. So again, that comes from executive level buy-in and understanding the importance of it, but also tracking and measuring the results. So setting goals on the front end. Here's how much we want to get out of this initiative, and here's how much we're planning to invest in it, and what's the appropriate ROI that we want to see on the back end. So through those 90 days, for example, if you're doing a trial or if it's even longer, looking and saying, here's where we're at. Are we on pace towards where we want to be? And really measuring it that way. And if you can show a positive ROI, more resources typically get allocated and more funding and investments typically get allocated to anything that is you're doing. But you need to make sure that you're measuring those results, you're setting those goals on the front end, and you're achieving them on the back end. So as we come in and work with teams on this transformation, it's doing that and making sure that we set goals on the front end and tracking it accordingly to get the appropriate ROI that they're looking to get out of it. And then also taking a phased approach, doing one step at a time. Once you see success with an experiment that you're trying out, then you build off that. Maybe you add some other things in there to try and experiment. Try and completely overhaul your processes. You currently do what's working and slowly build in other processes and other implementations and experiments that you could test out. And if you see success, then you start to scale those and add on top of those. The last thing that really becomes a challenge is, the skill of the leaders within the team. So specifically breaking it down back to sales. Over the past few years, the trend that we've seen in sports is a lot of people have fast lined up to from sales rep to sales manager and leader without the proper tools handed to them. Part of it was the pandemic. Coming out of the pandemic, really to keep a lot of your top people, you had to elevate them into higher level, more leadership type roles. But because of that, and also just the years that were missed from selling and recruiting and sales teams start to scale down, you and AI being more involved and other technologies to improve, you see the skills of a lot of the leaders start to slip. I was actually speaking with someone at league office of one of the major sports leagues that said a big challenge we face is a lot of our managers never really got the development as sales leaders or individual contributors and team leaders within their teams to be proper managers. So where they thought we could provide value is developing the leaders. So as you're going through these changes and implementation after that initial training or building out the playbooks, we'll spend time with the leaders, maybe like one-on-ones on a monthly basis for a few months, just to upskill their level of development as a leader and cover things like, moving from just, a manager or supervisor to a coach that's really coaching their people to be better sellers, running effective trainings. What does that look like? If you just got thrown into it and just started training people, are you running those appropriately so that you're getting the best return? Are you focusing on the right topics, and everything that's going to make that person better, make that team better? How you do account planning and run deal meetings with your team to strategize and game plan around target accounts or people that are in their pipeline, and how do you move them up to eventually to a close? Like, those are all skills that over time you have to learn, and if you can work with people who've done it before, you can quickly speed up the level of leadership within your team, which ultimately is going to help tie this all together and bring it home. So as a quick recap, making sure you overcome the problems internally, just the challenges people have of getting uncomfortable. So really explaining the why behind it, making sure you work with a partner that knows how to do it at a high level of expertise, not trying to do it in house, but getting with experts and agencies, maybe external, that have seen this a lot at other teams and other organizations. Getting cross-departmental alignment, so it's starting at the top with executive buy-in and setting key business metrics that you can track that align everyone towards that bigger goal. So moving from, which is probably more a B2C motion across your organization, to everyone being invested and having targets around B2B action, making sure that resources get allocated appropriately. So measuring the profit that you hope to see and the return you hope to see so that you get that. And then lastly, developing your leaders so they get to a high level. So hope everyone enjoyed the video this week and kind of this series around the different problems and solutions. We'll be back next week with another video.